to Virtual Coffee. My name is Alexa Collier, and I am the host of this podcast. Virtual Coffee is the small biz podcast where I typically interview small business owners from around the world. Now, today is a solo episode because I wanted to update you all on where the heck I've been. The last episode of Virtual Coffee was posted way back when in January of this year. I think it was January. And even before then, I was sporadically doing episodes, every other week, maybe every 3 weeks. But I am back and I'm so happy to be back on the mic. It honestly feels a little weird. I was a little nervous, but I'm excited to get the ball rolling again with the podcast. So where have I been? I mainly was living normal life. Nothing insane happened or anything like that. But last year, beginning of last year, so 2022, around January or March timeframe, I decided to enroll in a UI UX bootcamp. So a user experience, user interface design bootcamp. And I did it through Design Lab, which is an awesome company. I can talk about them more in a second. But I enrolled in this bootcamp. So I enrolled in it part-time. And the part-time bootcamp, takes anywhere from like 7 to 9 months to complete, 20 hours a week. And I had agreed with my full-time job to complete the bootcamp outside of work, so outside of working hours. And that's just what we agreed. I was, totally in agreement with that. And with the bootcamp through Design Lab, I also had to complete a pre-course. So this was actually a year-long process because I started that pre-course, I think in March timeframe of 2022, and then started the part-time boot camp around June-ish of 2022, and I just finished it last week. I officially graduated, and I'm so excited and happy and very, very proud of myself. I worked very hard. I will actually leave a link to the projects and my design portfolio in the description of this podcast if you're curious to check out what the heck I was doing for a year, everything I was learning. But like I said, I'm really proud of myself for pretty much completing it on time and as scheduled and walking out of it with 4 design projects that I'm very proud of. Of course, there's ways that I would improve them and do it differently, but I learned a ton through the bootcamp and I achieved what I set out to do when I first started that bootcamp. And that's really what I'm most proud of. So what that lets me do, the whole reason why I wanted to do that bootcamp is because I come from a technology background. So I majored in computer science and math in college, and then ended up on the team that I'm currently on, where I really fell in love with consulting and design thinking and strategy. So I have the technology side, I have the business and strategy side, and then I also found my passion for UI UX, so user experience design, human-centered design, and I felt that I was missing the hard skill sets of being able to, for example, design screens or design wireframes for the clients and the teams that I'm working with. So now I can do that. So now I can take a project and work with a team from beginning to end. I can help them define their problem, define their strategy, talk about the tech needed, and design it and build it for users and for humans. So long story short, again, I accomplished what I wanted to, and now I'm able to work across the spectrum, across the design thinking process, end to end in those 3 main areas. So yay. But the reason I had intentionally decided to put Virtual Coffee not aside, but pause it while I was wrapping up that bootcamp because it just became too much trying to keep up with the podcast and my full-time job and, my dogs and hanging out with my husband and keeping up with family and friends and the bootcamp, like everything. It just became too much. So I decided to put the podcast on pause for the time being, knowing that I was going to come back to it. I was going to come back to it stronger with a healthier mindset, a refreshed mindset, and skills that I can use for the podcast, like designing a website, maybe designing a new logo, stuff like that. So that's why I kind of took a hiatus. I didn't really make a huge announcement because it wasn't going to be a 6+ month break. I knew that, and I knew I was coming back to it. And I still posted and kept up with the Virtual Coffee Instagram and social media. So that's why you didn't see any huge big announcement from me. But if you're wondering why the podcast episodes paused, that's why. But now I am back. And also during that time, my husband, Nathan, he wrapped up his boot camp. We are clearly the boot camp family in this household. But he wrapped up his computer science, software engineering, coding boot camp. And he was able to secure a job as well. So now he is a software engineer, very proud of him. He completely pivoted from sales into computer science, into software engineering, and he started his job end of January of this year. So that kept us busy as well with him. And you might hear my dog in the background. That's Oliver. But that kept us busy as well with him wrapping up his boot camp, applying to jobs, finding out he got the job, starting his job. So everything's kind of resettle down for us. We're both in the groove of our jobs and life and in our new routine. So all is good there. So with that being said, with the podcast, I have plans for it. I kind of mentioned a possible website redesign. If you look at my design portfolio in the description of this podcast, you'll see one of the projects I did was focused on virtual coffee and what the website might look like. So that's exciting. I want to continue that and really try to build that up. I want to really take virtual coffee beyond the podcast. I'm going to keep up the podcast. I'm not stopping it, but I'd love the podcast to be one of several offerings of the overall virtual coffee brand and business. So thinking something like, what if people were able to shop from the small businesses that I feature in a centralized location on my website, something like that. What if people were able to listen to the podcast episodes, get to know the business owners, and then shop from them directly, and not have to go to Etsy or some third-party website like that. So I have a lot of ideas for that, which is also very exciting. And of course, I'm looking for guests. So if anyone wants to come on, please reach out to me. Always looking for small business owners to interview and chat with. You can have 10 followers to, thousands of followers. Just if you're a small business owner, I'd love to chat with you and interview you and showcase you on the podcast and promote you and your business. I really believe in promoting the people behind small businesses, and that's exactly why this podcast exists. So staying true to the mission, just simply evolving the offerings and the ways that we support those small businesses and the people behind them. So all really good, fun things to come. I'm very excited. I'm feeling very refreshed. My mindset is good. Crazy year is kind of behind us, and now I can leverage what I learned and move forward. And if you know me at all, I'll find the next thing to do immediately, and it's probably the plans I just mentioned for this podcast. So I'm going to be moving on to that. I always need a million things to work on and a million things going on in my life. That's when I feel happiest. I'm just accepting that about myself. So yeah, lots of good things planned for this year. I'll keep you all updated, of course, on Instagram and social media and the podcast. But yeah, we'll see who the first guest is on this kind of refreshed welcoming back the podcast. So look out for that episode. And thank you all for listening to this quick update. Just wanted to quickly hop on the mic and let you all know where I was, what I was doing. Oh, and I did want to mention that the boot camp I did, like I said, was through Design Lab. And if anyone is interested or has been considering doing a boot camp of any kind, please reach out. I'm happy to chat about it, happy to answer questions and tell you more about my experience. But I really like boot camps and those sort of online classes because they're much lower commitment and price than going back and getting a full-on degree. Of course, certain career pivots or whatnot, do require that degree, or if that's the path you want to go down, by all means, please do so. But if you're hesitant to commit to 4 etc. years to a degree while maintaining a job and paying for that degree, consider a boot camp. I really enjoyed my experience with the boot camp. It was structured but also self-paced, and I had a mentor assigned to me and a support network, and I loved it. I definitely needed that structure. I, of course, could have taught myself Figma and design on my own, but how much longer would that have taken? And would I have had the motivation and drive to do it on my own? I don't know, because at the end of the day, I'm tired after working my job, and if no one's telling me, hey, you have to work on this project, you have to submit this, you have to talk to your mentor, am I going to do it? I don't know. I don't know if I would. So I really needed that structure, and that's why I went the boot camp route. And similarly, my husband, who hopefully I'll have him on sometime soon to share his experience, but I know that's why he loved his boot camp too. It provided the structure. He could have, decided to learn coding on his own, but his boot camp provided him with deadlines and a group to work with in that kind of classroom type setting, but for a year. We didn't have to commit years of our time and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Granted, his boot camp was way more expensive than mine, but it still wasn't as expensive as a master's degree or something like that would cost. So totally worth it. I'll put a link in the description for my design portfolio so you can see my work, and a referral link to Design Lab if you're interested in looking at some of their courses. They have the academy, which is pretty intensive. It's 7 to 9 months part-time, a little shorter than that if you're doing it full-time at 40 hours a week. But they also have short courses, like 4 to 6 week-ish courses. I've also done some of those in the past. Those are really structured and nice. You also get a mentor there. So I love the company. This is certainly not sponsored by them. I'm simply sharing my experience, my year-long plus experience with them. And I love them. I would definitely promote them to others. And like I said, if you have any questions or are interested in just hearing more about them and my experience, happy to chat. Feel free to send me a DM or email me, virtualcoffeepodcast@gmail.com. Yeah, happy to chat, and check out those links in the description. But again, thank you all for listening to this quick update episode. I'm happy to be back. Thank you for staying with me and for continuing to listen to the podcast even during my break. I gained hundreds of listens. We're up to 10.8K listens. So thank you so much. That was so awesome seeing the numbers continue to go up even when I wasn't posting. So again, thank you so much for being here and sticking with me and continuing to support the podcast. I really appreciate you. I appreciate the community we're building. I love you all, love our community. And again, thank you so much, and I'll be back soon with another episode. So thank you, and if you want to follow us on social media, it's Virtual Coffee Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all the socials. You can find us pretty much anywhere. And again, thanks so much for tuning in. I'll chat with you all later. Bye.